Resurrection by Bi Gan is a visual tour de force and a love letter to cinema and filmmaking. Having recently watched it, I was absolutely blown away by the movie. I thought it was an amazing film full of everything I love and everything that keeps me interested in films. But with that said, I also recently watched his other films. So before Resurrection, I watched Kylie Blues. And then just this weekend, I watched out of order in release order, I watched Long Day's Journey into Night. So while I initially want to talk mostly about Resurrection, I am going to touch on Begon's other films and talk about the filmmaker as a whole. So here we go. This is my review and thoughts and feelings on not just Resurrection, but all of Begon's movies. So Resurrection, to get the set the tone for this discussion, sort of mini review, just thoughts and feelings and reactions, is that I absolutely loved it. I thought it was amazing. It was very art house because it's very abstract. So the premise is we're in a future world where people that don't dream live forever, but there are these deliriants who do dream and they cause problems for the undying others. So it's a very weird premise, and that like initially drew me in because yes, I love sci-fi fantasy novels and movies, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be my type of film, something weird, art housey, but also dealing with future and these undying immortals and what's it gonna deliver? But what I got was this another very art house film that really exceeded my expectations because I expected one thing and the way it was delivered was absolutely breathtaking. I love that the film is set up in a bit of short stories, and each one, as we're clearly shown, is going to take place in a different time period, and it's all going to connect somehow in the end. Because as the film opens, we are sort of primed as viewers in this old school, a black and white, or not black and white, but a soundless or wordless picture, because we're just showing the screen cards to show what the film is going to be about. And that's setting us like, okay, this is sort of an old timey film. And then even in these early moments of the film, we're also shown things happening that we wouldn't expect, that someone is actively involved in the scene. We see these hands and things moving out of place, and it's really great way, I thought, to start the film because it's really prepping the viewer that, oh, something is definitely happening here. This is not, it is open to interpretation, but we're going to see some abstraction of the ideas, and we're seeing these normally maybe unseen symbolic things taking active role in manipulating what we're seeing on the screen. And with that sort of mindset, as I was processing what the early opening moments were showing, I'm thinking more analytically, okay, I've really got to pay attention to everything that happens here. I know things are going to happen because we're shown that already, that things are going to be moved around and this is going to be very symbolic. And the whole presentation is, yes, very abstract, very art house, and I know that's what's going to happen. So as everything unfolds, as we go from sort of montage to montage, where every vignette is a different time period, because it switches so dramatically, and we're shown this floating camera in the opening sort of set and scene, which I had previously seen in Kylie Blues, which Bigan also makes a very interesting use of this floating camera and the camera as a person, as it these long takes that, as I later saw in Long Day's Journey at Night, is a definitely a signature Bigan move, and he is showing that here. So he has those ideas from his previous films, throwing in his DNA, I guess, in his filmmaking DNA. So the cinematography of Resurrection was amazing. I thought the visuals were totally blew me away. I loved every visual, and because every scene is a different homage to a different era. It has a different flavor, a different feel, a different film technique. You'll see a lot of references to very influential works in that genre or in that time period. Like the first neo noir, it's a very black and white. It's got the cool splintered glass scene, and you're like, aha, that's so cool. I recognize that as like a trope in filmmaking, and it's he's paying homage to these different eras of filmmaking and how they influence our character's journey. And we go to the next scene, which is like this folklore. You see like I thought it was like a Shaw Brothers type old school martial arts sort of film, because you have to understand, of course, the context. This is a Chinese film, so I'm thinking Chinese cinema. What are the influences, or world cinema that the director may have seen as he was writing this. So very interesting scenes. Yeah, the folklore one with the tooth, very weird. I like the buddy sort of father son smell one, and that's the other thing. Yeah, the smell, because at first you don't I didn't really understand that until we got later into this, that the first scene was maybe the visual, and then the second scene in hindsight was maybe sound, because there's this box machine thing, and I didn't really connect that each scene was eventually also related to a sense until we get to this the smell one, where it's okay, yeah, this is like the tooth. Okay, I understand maybe the tooth in the previous one, and now we're in this one where he's smelling the cards and it's sort of connecting. So we're introduced to these ideas that slowly unfurl, and we slowly, as viewers, are given the hints that these are the connections we should be making. I love that. I thought it was very smart filmmaking, smart writing, directing, to sort of introduce these elements gradually and let the viewer make these connections in that aha moment, that as long as you're paying attention, that yeah, I'm getting this is it's starting to make sense, even though it's very abstract, that I'm starting to get the ideas of what's happening. And then by the last one, I love the last one because it's the most modern one, and I have a special affinity to like these Hong Kong turn of the century classic era HK cinema is my, one of my maybe favorite genres, late 90s, early 2000s. And this end of the millennium sort of scene with, yeah, I think it's the touch scene because there's a lot of maybe action and violence. It is a very interesting one. I love that one maybe the most. And then how that, again, maybe not to be too spoilery, but it sort of connects back to the beginning, and it makes this whole movie seem almost like a circle as we learn what we were initially primed at the beginning, that this does all tie into this idea of the deliriance and something with dreaming, and that the character we've been following was maybe different versions of the character in a dream through each scene, that even though he appears in different ways, by the end we can see that maybe it did all connect. So I thought it was, yeah, this plot and the writing was absolutely amazing. The cinematography was beyond amazing. And that's what I maybe want to talk about as an evolution of the filmmaker. So to also put it into context, that I had seen Kylie Blues first, then Resurrection second, and then Long Day's Journey to Night third. I can see the evolution of the filmmaker now in each film. And here in Resurrection, you see the ideas. Like Kylie Blues was a bit unstructured of what was going on plot wise, but had some great cinematography, the long takes. And then in his follow up, Long Day's Journey into Night, he he being Bi Gan refined some of his plot. It made a lot more sense. I absolutely love Long Day's Journey into Night, but he still has some of the ideas of long takes, and you see him refining it. And then now here in Resurrection, I think that's the crystallization of Bi Gan as a filmmaker and becoming a master filmmaker, because the long takes are still there, but not quite as long. And so he has still has amazing cinematography that he's been learning and refining. And I think the script, like for example, in Long Day's Journey's Night, it was grounded, but did have some fantastic elements. And then Resurrection felt like, what if we went a little bit deeper on some of the symbolism and the abstraction that was present in Long Day's Journey to Night. And we took that idea and made that more a focus of the film. And that's where we get Resurrection, which has a through plot thread, but again, with more symbolism, more meaning, more visual ideas, and more thinking required of the viewer. So you can see sort of the ideas in each film that Bi Gan has released sort of growing and building on each other. And I think he's really reached new heights here with the Resurrection. And I cannot stop thinking about it. I immediately want to learn more. What did I miss? What was the other symbolism and themes that were there? And I see it discussed a little bit here and there online, but this is slowly getting wider release. So if you have not seen Resurrection, I highly recommend you checking out. I think it is going to be a film that is talked about a lot. It was initially reviewed in New York Times, I saw in December, so it has been getting some press, but as it gets a wider release here in the United States, I think it will continue to gather acclaim for Bi Gan. And as a follow up, if you loved Resurrection, I also highly recommend you check out Long Day's Journey to Night, which has a very similar feel and ideas, and also a lot of great symbolism and cinematography. So Long Day's Journey to Night, recommend. And Resurrection, the topic of this one, Highly recommend. It was a 5-star letterbox rating for me. Easily one of my favorite films of the year so far, even though it came out late 2025. So do check it out and let me know in the comments if I missed anything. I'm sure I've missed tons of the symbolism, but I would love to discuss this film more with other people. So thanks for watching and have a great day.